Hey there and welcome. If you're looking after an older loved one, you know there's this one question that can cause so much stress. It probably even keeps you up at night. Today, we're going to get to the bottom of it. It's this question, isn't it? Or maybe for you, it's why they put the keys in the fridge again. You see these little moments and your mind just starts racing, jumping to the worst case scenario. And wow, that is a heavy burden to carry. So the first thing to know is that you are absolutely not alone in feeling this way. It is completely natural to worry when you start seeing changes in someone you love. The key, though, is to get informed before you let your mind run away with you. Yeah, that line can feel, well, super blurry. And living with that kind of uncertainty is just exhausting. So the whole point of this explainer is to make that line crystal clear, to help us all move from that feeling of worry to a place of real, clear-eyed insight. All right, so before we dive into the big warning signs, let's talk about what's just, well, normal. Because let's be real, all of our brains change as we get older. You know, it might actually surprise you to hear this, but some level of cognitive decline is a totally universal part of aging, and it often starts kicking in around age 40. So what that means is, not every forgotten birthday or misplaced phone is a reason to panic. It's just part of being human. And this quote really hits home, right? Occasional forgetfulness like, where did I leave my keys? Probably isn't something to worry about. Come on, we've all walked into a room and had absolutely no idea why we went in there. That kind of thing, that's perfectly normal. Okay, now for the important part. Let's put normal aging and potential signs of Alzheimer's side by side in a few real-world situations. This is where you'll really start to see the difference. So let's kick things off with situation number 1, trouble with familiar tasks. We're talking about the stuff we do on autopilot. You know, using the TV remote, playing a favorite game, or driving a route you've taken 1,000 times. So what's the real difference here? It all comes down to frequency and consistency. With normal aging, sure, you might need a little help figuring out the new microwave. But a potential red flag is when there's a consistent struggle with things they've done their whole life, like suddenly getting lost on the way to the grocery store they've been going to for 30 years. All right, next up is situation number 2, which is all about what experts call executive function. But really, it's just the everyday skills we use to plan things, stay organized, and figure stuff out, like following a recipe or paying the bills on time. Again, we're looking at the difference between a simple, one-off mistake and a bigger, more fundamental problem. Forgetting to add the vanilla to the cookie recipe? That's normal. But being completely unable to follow the steps of that same recipe, or suddenly not being able to manage the monthly budget, that could be a warning sign. It's a shift from a little slip-up to a problem with the whole process. Okay, this next one, it can be really subtle at first. I mean, who hasn't woken up and thought, wait, is it Wednesday or Thursday? But there's a much deeper kind of confusion that we really need to be aware of. So you can see, on the one hand, with normal aging, you might get confused for a second, but then you figure it out. On the other hand, the confusion is much more persistent. It's losing track of what season it is, or something even more jarring, like forgetting where they are or how they even got there. It's like the internal GPS we all rely on starts to break down. You know, it's not always just about memory. Sometimes the most worrying changes are about behavior and personality. Let's dig into our last 2 examples, which are really important. Look, we all make a bad call now and then, right? We buy something we shouldn't have or say the wrong thing. But what we're talking about here is a real, consistent pattern of poor judgment that's just totally out of character. And the examples here are super practical. A normal bad decision is, I don't know, buying shoes you can't afford. But a sign of something more serious is a frequent pattern, like giving away large amounts of money to phone scammers over and over, or a sudden and noticeable decline in taking care of themselves, like bathing or grooming. And our final situation, number 5, is a big one, personality. Of course, anyone can get grumpy or annoyed when their routine gets messed up, but a potential red flag is when there's a major change in who they fundamentally are as a person. And it's really important to get this distinction right. This isn't just about being a little cranky. We're talking about a distinct shift in their core personality, becoming suspicious of family members, or suddenly being very fearful or anxious, especially when they're in a new or unfamiliar place. These are changes that go way beyond just having a bad day. Okay, deep breath. We've gone through all the differences, so now what? This is the most important part. The goal here is absolutely not for you to diagnose your loved one from your kitchen table. The goal is to know when it's time to take one clear, simple next step. So, if you were nodding along, if some of those warning signs on the right side of the screen felt a little too familiar, the big question is, what do you do now? Well, the first thing is, don't panic. The answer is to take calm, purposeful action. It really is this simple. It's a two-step plan. Step 1, you notice. You pay attention to those significant, serious, or sudden changes. And step 2, you act. You pick up the phone and schedule that doctor's appointment. Because the doctor is the only one who can truly figure out what's going on. And let me tell you why getting to the doctor is so important. For one, early detection can help manage symptoms and help your loved one stay independent for longer. And maybe just as crucial, a doctor can rule out other things that might be causing these symptoms, some of which are actually treatable. So a checkup is always a win-win.
So what's the big takeaway here? It's that your job isn't to have all the answers. Your job is to be a loving, observant advocate for their health. And by understanding these key differences, you can start to trade that constant, nagging uncertainty for the clarity and confidence you need to take the right next step. You've got this.